KOC, we talked to you before the lottery. I didn't think, leading up to it, that we'd be talking about the Indiana Pacers, and we will talk about the draft, but the Indiana Pacers on the verge of an NBA title. How shocked are you that the Pacers are in this situation against the Thunder?
Absolutely shocked as a guy who thought they were just some league pass darling, this cute regular season team that was going to get stomped by one of the favorites in the postseason. Yeah, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that they're up 2-1 over the Oklahoma City the NBA Finals, but they keep proving me and a bunch of other people that picked the Thunder to win the finals wrong with what they've been doing, especially in that game 3. They were absolutely sensational, and I'll tell you what, I think the way they play, there's some lessons to be learned for teams around the league about how to team build.
I literally, KOC, don't like anybody on that Indiana Pacers team.
TJ?
Other than TJ.
Than
TJ.
All right.
But everybody else, I'm like, I would not watch these guys play. They have been outstanding this postseason. I'm giving a ton of credit to Rick Carlisle. The way Rick Carlisle has coached to get these guys here. A lot of people forget that he has won a championship with the Mavericks already. Just the job he's doing as a head coach. I don't know if he's getting enough credit or not.
No, Carlisle, I mean, you're right, Ike. Like, he's been awesome. Like, the adjustments he's made throughout this entire postseason, and also just like the style Indiana plays.
Yeah.
Just to get these guys to buy in together and play with the intensity that they do from start to finish throughout an entire game. That's what is fueling some of their comebacks. That's why they play the same way offensively. Like, think about, like, how do teams usually end games? ISO ball, dribble over and over. The Pacers run their offense. They're cutting and setting screens and moving fast in the half court. Like, I know you might not like the individual guys besides TJ McConnell, but like, I'm glad like you like the system and how it all results, because I think it's pretty beautiful to watch all the pieces put together.
Oh yeah, believe me, I'm that fan that needs a star player to sort of gravitate to.
Ike, as a basketball player, is a ball hog and a chucker, so he likes seeing those guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
They play great team ball in Indiana, so therefore I'm not necessarily infatuated with them. Yes.
All right, TJ, or you're not TJ, you're KOC. Get to the draft. Obviously, we're not talking about the Sixers in the NBA Finals. Haven't talked about that in 20-some years. So, the big name, as soon as the Sixers got number 3, that everyone was fighting about is Ace Bailey. So, first of all, your thoughts on Ace Bailey, and if you were the Sixers, would you take Ace Bailey with the 3rd pick?
No, I would not take Ace Bailey with the 3rd pick if I'm the Sixers. Ace Bailey's far too raw, too much of a question mark with how he would fit into the ecosystem of what the Sixers are trying to build. So I would be looking to either trade down, up, out, but not take Ace Bailey with the 3rd pick in the draft, because even though he's 6'8", even though he's in theory this knockdown shooter off the dribble and off the catch, he hasn't been. Like, he's shot below 70% from the free throw line, shot only 34.6% from 3-point range. The Michael Porter Jr. comparison he often gets, I think, is a little bit misleading, because MPJ had a flamethrower jumper in high school. He had a flamethrower in his short time in college, and he did from day one when he stepped on an NBA floor. Ace Bailey has not shown that consistency, in part because of shot selection. I'm sure everybody in Philadelphia saw the quote from him at the NBA draft combine in Chicago, where he was asked about that shot selection, and he's like, well, I practiced those shots. That's the player he wants to be. And so when I think about Ace Bailey, yes, there's star upside. Yes, it's going to take you a while to get there, though, and it reminds me of the Golden State Warriors choice when they took Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga is the type of guy who wants to be a star, who practices star things, but not necessarily a guy who's doing role player things with upside for more, which is what Philadelphia needs from this pick. So yes, I understand take the highest upside player, but Ace Bailey's no guarantee to become that. He is a risk in the short term and in the long term, which is why I believe you're seeing so much trade talk around this pick, and why I think Philadelphia should, and ultimately we'll see if they end up actually trading up, down, or out of this draft pick.
You mentioned Kuminga. Who would you compare Ace Bailey to, the former NBA player, or former or current NBA players that people know?
Rudy Gay.
Okay.
Rudy Gay is the first name that comes to mind. I mean, just like a solid scorer. Maybe he ends up better than a Rudy Gay, but just like a bucket getter, can catch fire, has a long career, but isn't necessarily like a high impact winning player. I think that's a realistic outcome for Ace Bailey, and maybe he ends up much more than that. But again, it's going to take a long time for it to actually manifest. And for Philadelphia, I don't think they have that time to wait.
Rudy Gay is interesting because the Grizzlies got better after they traded Rudy Gay. And Rudy Gay actually, I think, was more interesting in the late stages of his career, sort of when he settled into almost being a role player type as opposed to trying to be a star player.
Bingo, Spike. Like, I think that's spot on, and that's the thing with Ace Bailey. Like, is he gonna, like, everybody says, well, Ace Bailey could shoot a higher percentage from three if he's taking higher quality threes. He's just standing in the corner. He could, if he's focusing on playing more defense and focusing on all these things, he can be a better player. It's like, yeah, but you're asking him to be something that he's never been and hasn't really shown a desire to be. And that's where I have some issues with the fit with Philadelphia for Ace Bailey. And like, I get you might be passing on a guy that maybe ends up becoming a star, but that goes down to your priorities as a franchise. Are you trying to win in the 25-26 season, the 26-27 season, or are you more concerned about building for 2030 and beyond? And depending on what side of the fence you fall on is where I think you're going to feel about Ace Bailey.
So I know you said you'd rather trade up or trade back, but let's say those deals aren't there because you need a trade partner for that and you need a good trade for that. So let's say you're the Sixers and you're picking at 3. Who would you pick at 3?
You know, I'll tell you what, I think there would be a trade partner. I'll say that first. I think there would be. Whether it's a deal that you're incredibly happy about is a whole different question, but there are teams interested that are trying to trade up, New Orleans included. At 3, VJ Edgecombe does really intrigue me for all of these things we're talking about, because with VJ Edgecombe, he's 6'4" with a very long wingspan, elite athleticism, and he's somebody who already did show a willingness to play a role player role for Baylor this past season as a guy who occasionally stepped up, handled the ball a lot, was a downhill attacker, but for the most part played a 3-and-D style for the Baylor Bears. So I think with VJ Edgecombe, he has that willingness to play a lesser role, but he also has significant upside because of his athleticism, because of his driving ability. He shot 43% in his final 2 years in high school. So I think his 34% he shot at Baylor was a little misleading. He's an elite shooter. He has elite touch. So I'm a believer in him there. And he's got the mindset, man. Like, the dude's a dog. The way he attacks on drives to the rim, the way he attacks on boards and rips down some rebounds. He plays hard, plays fast. I think VJ Edgecombe is where I lean if the Sixers have to stay at number 3.
I tell you, KOC, the moment I get comfortable, you come in and now, I didn't love Ace Bailey, but I was starting to really like Ace Bailey and starting to envision him as a Sixer. Now you just threw me off because I respect everything you say. So you just threw me off because you're not in love with the fit for the Sixers and moving forward. One thing you really said that I'm sort of hung up on is, where do the Sixers sort of really see themselves doing next year? Is this rebuild, or are they trying to win next year? And are you looking for a piece that sort of fits? Because you already have a Paul George who's 6'8", and you got Embiid as a center, and you got the 2 young guards. Are you looking for a piece just to fit with those guys, or what are you looking for next year if you're looking at next year's team?
I mean, I'm looking at both. I want a guy that helps me in the short term and helps me in the long term. Okay. I want to try to maximize the chances of Embiid being healthy in April and going on a run in this pathetically weak Eastern Conference. I'm trying to make a run this year, but yes, I'm also acknowledging that Embiid hasn't stayed healthy. He very well might be past his prime, that contract might end up in albatross if he never gets healthy again. I acknowledge all of those things. Same with Paul George with 3 years remaining on his deal, and he looks like he'd rather be a podcaster at this point. I acknowledge all of that, but at the same time, that's why you're building for both that short term and for the future. And I think VJ Edgecombe, Con Knipple, guys like that help check both of those boxes. And there's more names if they were to actually trade down in the draft, or Dylan Harper at number 2 if they were to trade up to number 2 with San Antonio. So I want both. If I'm the Sixers, right. And I don't think Ace Bailey checks the both box for me.
So
hold on real quick, Spike.
Yeah.
Because he mentioned my guy, Con Knipple.
Yes.
All right.
Jack's guy, too.
Yeah. Well, I introduced Jack to him.
Okay.
So
heady player.
I'm just trying to see KOC. Knipple, how do you see him sort of fitting? Is he like a Cooper Flag light? Like what are we looking at with Knipple?
I mean, Knipple, he's, I interviewed him for my podcast about a month ago at the draft combine. The dude acts like he's 30 years old. First of all, like he's just 19 years old, but like maturity level wise, like there's certain guys you interview that are super mature and certain ones you interview that are immature. The maturity level is there, the acceptance of role, embracing the role, playing hard, doing the extra stuff on the floor, diving on the floor for a loose ball, chasing rebounds, making the smart pass, like all of those things that Sixers fans, I think, loved about Jared McCain last year with his ability to quickly adapt in the NBA. I think it's very similar with Knipple. Knipple's only 6'5". He's not especially long, but elite shooter, elite, attacking closeouts, blossoming as a creator as well. I mean, to me, he could fit on literally any team in the league. For Philadelphia, I wouldn't say he's my preference necessarily because like Philly already has Maxey and McCain. I guess they can afford to have one more guy, but if you draft Knipple, maybe there's a little too much overlap if you're also bringing back Quentin Grimes. But then again, you can never have enough shooting, can never have enough versatile wings / guards in your backcourt.
So there was a rumor online. We're with Kevin O'Connor of Yahoo, Kevin O'Connor Show, everywhere you get your podcasts and YouTube. There was a rumor today from Michael Scotto that the Sixers had engaged the Spurs in a trade-up scenario to 2. You would think that would be for Dylan Harper. Now, I want to caution everybody, this is rumor time. So there's stuff everywhere. There's some truth to everything. It doesn't mean anything's going to happen. If you're the Sixers, how aggressive are you in trying to trade up to 2 to get Dylan Harper, and how do you see him fitting?
I think Philadelphia would be a pretty close to ideal fit for Dylan Harper in terms of the spacing Philadelphia would have. You have Embiid who can shoot threes, Maxey, the speed he plays with, the shooting ability that he has, McCain. Like there's a lot of shooting on the floor that I think would really help Dylan Harper mitigate some of the shooting concerns that he has and really highlight his just elite downhill attacking. The dude shot almost 70% at the rim last year at Rutgers. He's a ambidextrous finisher at the rim. He's strong. He's got great footwork. He knows how to decelerate. Like the dude's an awesome finisher and a really good passer. And in theory, should be, when he's empowered to be, a very versatile defender at 6'5" with strength and length. So for Philadelphia, I think he'd be a pretty perfect fit next to McCain and Maxey. Now, how aggressive would I be? I'm not being so aggressive that I'm trading McCain to move up one spot, but I'd be willing to put future picks on the table. I'd be willing to try to get creative here with different configurations for the deal, but ultimately I'd prefer to stick to a draft picks based package rather than giving up McCain in a deal unless more is coming back for San Antonio in the form of some type of players. But I'd be going for Harper if possible. Ultimately, though, like you said, it's rumor season and everybody's calling everybody trying to see what's possible. And I wouldn't bet on Philly moving up to 2, but I think it says a lot that they're actually trying.
KOC, I just want to let you know, I know you put out your newest mock draft, and it had the Sixers trading back and then taking Malawach, a center from Duke. I just want to let you know, they trade and take a center with their lottery pick, you're causing Philadelphia chaos.
I'm diving into Schuylkill head first.
Just so you know, that would be the chaos pick.
Why? Can I ask why? Why is that?
Taking a center.
Because it's a center.
Yeah. I mean,
but the teams play two bigs. Malawach is very versatile.
Oh, come on.
You need like, you want Andre Drummond as your backup center again? I'm not saying you draft the backup center with a top 10 pick, but what I am saying is that with Malawach, he's a guy who can help in the short term, play with Embiid or behind Embiid. And he's a guy in the long term. Like, he's not just like Rudy Gobert Jr. He's not just a guy who's just going to be at the rim and that's it. Malawach enters the NBA with more versatility on defense. He was very switchable for Duke last season, and he's got some touch. He has some touch. He has a little bit of skill on offense. He's only been playing basketball for 5 years in his life. I think there's some untapped shooting potential for him in the same way there was for Embiid when he was drafted by the Sixers over a decade ago. So I think with Malawach, he's one of those helps in the short term and long-term guys. But yeah, I understand you already have a beat, and I get that mindset of wanting to go at another possession.
Well, look, I'm just telling you there would be chaos. I can only imagine doing the podcast that night after they take a center. It's just
we got
like
PTSD. They took 3 centers 3 years straight once upon a time.
Yeah, we had Embiid, Nerlens Noel, and Julian Okafor on the team at the same time. You remember that?
Those were good times watching those Sixers teams with all those centers out there.
Yeah, good time. Great times. Yeah, we actually had Embiid. We had one. I remember it only happened for one game, had Okafor and Noel on the court at the same time. And by the way, we were so brainwashed at that point. We're like, this could work.
This could work.
This could work. All right, KOC. Kevin O'Connor Show is awesome. Get it wherever you get your podcasts with Yahoo and YouTube, and of course your mock drafts. You are dual threat, man. You're doing the finals and the current NBA stuff, but you're also great at the draft. So we appreciate your time as always, KOC.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on.